Hi, we've been asked to do an article critique on the smart and sustainable built environment. This is an analysis to describe the relationship between sustainable practices and financial performance of construction companies across the board. The construction companies that participated in this report were 44 Australian Stock Exchange listed construction companies taken out of the ASX. The data in this analysis has been supplied by third-party sources sharing their information from previous reports relating to relevant environmental, social and governance activities. The research discussed in the article relies purely on the hard data found for these reports. We have described the strengths, weaknesses and limitations and relevant opportunities that have arisen from the key things in this report. Over to Mitch to outline these key things.
So, as Luke mentioned, the research summarised in this article aims to establish the relationship between sustainability practices and financial report performance. In particular, it explores the correlation between the financial performance, as mentioned before, the 44 Australian construction companies and their reporting of sustainable, environmental, social and governance, ESG. The idea behind the article was to determine whether publicly listed construction companies benefit from greater transparency and disclosure of information relating to issues such as climate change, environmental management practices, environmental efficiency, employee management, and sound governance arrangements. This includes the impact of profitability by examining investment returns, whether their stocks, investments, and stakeholders benefited from these findings, or whether there was no obvious benefit at all, or whether increased reporting even was a possible downfall for these companies. The researchers attempted to quantify the relationship by using existing non-financial reporting guidelines to identify 68 factors considered important evidence of ESG practices and then examined and scored ESG scores of those 44 companies. It was interesting to note that only 9% of these 44 companies that reported ESG indicators were better off financially reporting than those that did not. We'll now go over to Sam, who will talk about part 1, level of reporting.
Thanks, Mitch. So overall, the construction companies that were referenced in this article did not perform well with their reporting. This was due to a number of reasons, but one of the main reasons was that construction companies may not want other people to see their competitive advantage or to see their weaknesses on reporting. The ability to highlight the weaknesses of the construction companies was quite strong, although 68 items in the article that were within 9 domains came to be most important to institutional investors, such as climate change, environmental management, efficiency, health and safety, and capital and conduct. Some of the weaknesses from this...
Still going.
We'll just cut it out. One of the weaknesses of this article was the majority of companies in the study were found to have poor levels of reporting, as I said before. They also failed to meet the level of demand for transparency set by the institutional investors. The ability to truly reflect on the data due to the fact that 2/3 of the companies were considered to be below average in financial reporting was also a weakness. Over to Kieran now to discuss the relationships.
Thanks, Sam. So some of the strengths in part 3, the evidence that is shown through the graphs and tables within the article, strongly correlate with the discussion and the results. Whilst construction companies that issued non-financial reports performed stronger, the companies that did not, the correlation between the data that has been analysed between profitability, performance, and the extent of non-financial practices isn't very strong. Again, the weaknesses between this article and in the larger picture is that due to many construction companies, 66% not wanting or willing to provide and share their information on financial data, This is hard to determine whether the findings are accurately reflected or what is occurring in practice within the whole industry. As we experienced from previous examinations, there is a large relationship between ESG scores and financial growth. The possible considerations that would be worthy or further consideration and knowledge would be blurring between certain non-financial practices. As some practices, I'll hand this now over to Luke, if he's got anything to add on.
Yeah, Sam, what do you think one of the main weaknesses in the report was the transparency of reporting?
I think construction companies have a tendency to not fully report on aspects of the company that may potentially expose their lack of involvement in improving their environmental, social and governance responsibilities. Am I able to ask you a question?
Yeah.
Someone. How do you think the data collection timeline of 3 years affected the results of the report?
Well, if the data was done over a longer period of time, they would have been able to obtain more data and have less outliers. Major investors want more clear data over a longer period to make a genuine assessment of ESG scores. Although the report was not found to have a clear link between ESGs and earnings, there was still correlation between the two areas that it's worth looking into.
Yeah, definitely. I
Yeah.
agree with that.
So I reckon over to Kieran to wrap things up.
Yep, so just sort of concluding everything, overall the report, was not convincing. The findings were based on such small sample size, as the data was, it was such for a short period of time, 3 years, investors would be wanting to
At least
for
10 years, yeah.
for 7 to 10 years, it would be a much more accurate results. The authors do acknowledge this limitation, but offer little to overcome this. They suggested the government should encourage or mandate non-financial reporting to confirm the possible link between non-financial reporting and improved performance. However, without this evidence, this is it's not a strong position.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.